lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On right here on UCY.TV, and I'm your host for the next 2 hours. And snow there too, huh? Yeah. 10th of April, 2016, we are inundated with massive amounts of man-made global warming, and we're tearing up the earth, and just keeps getting hotter out. Now, heat creates snow on April the 10th. I mean, it's all logical, isn't it? If you're a scientist. I really spit on science. I really got no use for science whatsoever. It's the biggest fraud besides lawyers. You put the lawyers and the scientists together, we're in a lot of trouble. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The hosing we've taken by these deceivers. And it's amazing what people do for money. Amazing that they'll do just about anything for money. Yeah, I know, it's the 10th of April already, and I'm looking out the window and it's snowing. I got snow in my yard that hasn't melted yet, and now it's snowing some more. Anyways, last night on Revolution Radio, I was talking about Bruce Springsteen and the boys who somehow decided that supporting the LGBTQ WXYZ was more important than doing the concert that people bought the tickets for. And I would suggest that the number of LGBTQ XYRZs that were going to attend the concert compared to the rest of the concert goers was a very tiny, tiny number. So what Springsteen and his band said to his fans, their fans, was, here's a middle finger. You are the majority, but you mean nothing to us because we're not going to play because of some law passed in North Carolina. And what people don't understand about the laws passed in North Carolina, it is all just part of the same game, which is problem, reaction, solution. In order to bring forward the rights of the absolute screwed up minority, we have to have someone write a law saying that it's against the law. And that means that we can get the reaction going, i.e. Springsteen, the band, and then we can jump all over North Carolina. The guys in North Carolina that wrote the law because they were told to write the stupid law in order to create strife, chaos. Okay, so the media could pick up on, and the band could pick up on, and further the wishes of the a-holes that created the United Nations and the spider web attached to it. They didn't call this the web for nothing. Right? Anyways, I got some good news. Let me see where that good news is. I think this will work for, where did I see that? The Maple Leafs Hockey Club. Now, make no mistake, there isn't a major sports league that is not pushing the UN agenda. Not one of them. I mean, their own UN documents state how they are using sports in order to further the global agenda. So if you are one of these sports fans, which I used to be a big sports fan of, and like science now, I just basically spit on corporate sports because that's all it is they're moving their agenda. And, people sit around, oh, wow, did you see the contract he signed? He's getting like $16 million. And they sit around like they're having an intelligent conversation. These people are being paid big bucks because they distract you. And then they use those players to move the program forward. Anyways, the good news is that the Maple Leafs finished the season in last place. I don't even know how many hockey teams there are anymore. I kind of got rid of it when we got rid of the original 8 or whatever. You got so many teams, there's not enough talent to run that many teams. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs are evidence of that. Toronto Maple Leafs last won a hockey game won the cup in 1967. That's some time ago. And I'm going to just go through a little bit of this. This is out of Newark, New Jersey. It says, let me see here. We got. They finished last, but there is optimism for the journey ahead. Even missing the playoffs for the 10th time in 11 seasons doesn't dampen the enthusiasm for the Leafs heading into their new 100th season. They haven't won. It'll be their 50th anniversary next year that they haven't won the cup. But they're optimistic. Okay? They're optimistic. I don't know what they're optimistic about. Like I said, next year will be their 50th anniversary of not winning the cup. And it seems like a logical team to have in Toronto. Toronto is the center, the Canadian center for LGBTQ, but I can't deal with all that shit. It's too ridiculous. There's no H or S in that, right? No heterosexual, no straight, no nothing in all those letters. It's all these other letters. But Toronto is the epicenter of multiculturalism, of all these little communities with the little letters in front of their names. It is the Canadian city for UN agenda. I mean, Toronto was a sanctuary city. I don't know if it still is classed as a sanctuary city where people can break the federal immigration laws and come to Toronto, and it's a safe haven for them. The only place it's not safe for is normal people. It's what they want everything to look like, and it's going to get ugly. But, the Toronto Maple Leafs don't have to be a good team because the idiots in Toronto fill the stands for every game. So as long as you're filling the stands, you don't need to win. But you'd think after 49 years that somebody would say, this team sucks. Why are we coming to this thing? But not in Toronto. Nope, they line up, they buy their tickets because they're all brain dead. You have to be brain dead to be in Toronto. Otherwise, you would get what's going on and you wouldn't partake of it. So, Toronto, the greater GTA, contains pretty much half the population of the entire province. And this is what they want everybody to be. A little piece of this, a little piece of that, but basically stupid in a box of rocks. And then be all happy about it. On the surface, those optimistic sentiments emerging from Toronto Maple Leafs locker room were at odds with a team that had lost 5-1 to New Jersey on Saturday night, locking up last place overall for just the fourth time in the team's 99-year history. But digging down, there actually may be something to it. The future of our organization is very bright, said Leafs coach Mike Baddock. There's still a lot of pain coming, but we're going to get a lot better very fast. Well, you've been trying to get better for 49 years. That ain't real fast. He went further later in his post-game comments, raising expectations of a playoff berth. We'll be prepared for free agency and make sure we have a team that isn't missing the playoffs, said Baddock. Part of the optimism stems from the last place finish itself. And that's, when you're in last place, you got to be optimistic, right? We're the worst freaking team in the league. We haven't won nothing in 49 years. What else you got left but to be optimistic? It means that the Leafs have the best chance at 20% among non-playoff teams at drafting first overall in June, with U.S. center Austin Matthews deemed to be a franchise-type cornerstone prospect. Even missing the playoffs for the 10th time in 11 seasons doesn't dampen the enthusiasm for the Maple Leafs heading into their 100th season. It's like I like the attitude of our guys, said Baddock. I like the changes we've made. I like how we set up to move ahead. It's like anything, short-term pain for long-term gain. I'm really ecstatic about how we're set up to move ahead. I really like that, he says. Jesus. I don't know, man. Reading this, it kind of reminds me of the attitude of people in general. They're watching their countries get down the toilet. They're watching the future of the younger generations. Just being in last place all the time seems to be an optimistic place to be. We can move forward. We put some more windmills up, even though they don't work, and even though it's just a con game. But then the Maple Leafs is a con game. In fact, the entire sports industry at this point in time is nothing more than a con game. Okay? Because it's being used, and the players are being used to push pharmaceuticals, to push UN agendas, to push elite agendas, and so on and so forth. Maybe one of these Maple Leafs will come out and say that he's so proud to have been last place that he went out and bought himself a 268 square foot condo with 10-foot ceilings. And, even though it's small, it seems bigger than it really is. Sounds like something might come out of the mouth of a last place player. I don't know how we get our people get their acts together. But I was thinking, after talking about the Springsteen problem in North Carolina last night, I was kind of thinking maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs ain't looking at this entirely correctly. You got a team that is going to be celebrating, and I'll guarantee you they don't win the Cup next year. I'll put money on that one. So they're going to celebrate their 50th year without winning a Stanley Cup. Now, obviously, at some point, you got to say there's something desperately wrong here. Is it the water in Toronto? Is it the LGBTQ, whatever, feeling in the area? What exactly is going on here? Well, I'm thinking that maybe the best thing the Toronto Maple Leafs could do would be put on dresses. Become Canada's first transgendered professional hockey team. And they get a lot of attention from that, you know. And I'm thinking that might be the answer to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They'd still fill the stands because, well, even if the true blue hockey fans stayed away from the stadium, there'd be so much positive spin. Bruce Jenner could come in and drop the puck, you know, and it'll be North America, maybe the world's first transgendered professional hockey club. And won't have a slap shot anymore. You'll have a limp-wristed pass, and they'll have to build some more washrooms, of course, because, well, maybe not. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. So, you know, I want the people who are into fashion that are listening to this, I hope that you understand that I'm completely serious about this. Canada's first, North America, maybe the world's first transgendered professional hockey team. And they would be able to play in the league, in the National Hockey League, because not to allow them to play would be, well, it would be racist. It would be derogatory. It would be bigoted. So there's no way. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs have been in the league for 100 years next year, haven't won nothing in 50. But they do have the franchise, and I see nothing anywhere in the law that would stop them from being players in the National Hockey League as a transgendered team. And they would definitely fill the stands in Toronto. So I think that is being more optimistic than the coach is. So, you know, if you guys out there and gals out there and any transgendered or LGBTQs that are listening, you may want to sit down at your computer now or with your sketch pad and start designing a new uniform for the Toronto transgendereds. Okay? Sounds better, you know, the Toronto, that sounds got a nice ring to it, folks. Toronto Maple Leafs. When you say the Toronto Maple Leafs, there's no optimism there. Oh, we're going to watch the whole season again and watch them lose and make excuses for them. So instead of the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's the Toronto Transgendereds. And it probably has a nice ring to it. And maybe they'll win. Right? Maybe they'll win. They'll probably be allowed to win because we want to push all this stuff, right? We want to normalize all of this stuff. So I can hear Bruce Jenner right now. He's getting all giddy. He just thinks it's a grand idea. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Toronto Maple Leafs season. And, you know, my hockey team was always the Montreal Canadiens, simply because the people, their fans, if the team doesn't perform, they just don't show up at the game. Where in Toronto, it doesn't matter. I mean, they made last place. I'm sure the stands were full in their last game they played in Toronto. So, you know, get out your rainbow flags. We're going down to see the hockey game. And we have Justin Trudeau there with his little rainbow towel across his legs there. You know, fitting position for a prime minister in 2016, going into 2017 season. So, yeah, that's what we'll do. The Toronto Transgendereds. Wonderful idea. Anyways, what else? Oh, here's a story. It says here only 5 of 14 new justices of the peace have a law degree. Does that make sense? Well, yes and no. Now, they've obviously started to change things a little bit. I'm going to have to dig out that recording and post it because I did have a very long conversation, very productive conversation with the Law Society of Upper Canada about, I don't know, a year or so ago, so I got to go dig that out, of all these calls I've made. And when I called them, none of the justices had a law degree. So I may have rattled somebody's cage, because after that conversation, I couldn't get to the Chief Justice. I couldn't get through the gatekeepers there, and the guy from the Law Society, after we discussed this nonsense that they call law, and this nonsense of these justices of the peaces, I thought that the justice of the peaces. I mean, come on, must be Sunday. Anyways. During our discussion, and I've said this many times on the show before, which was that their thing that came up when I was searching was that, I thought justice of peaces were schooled in law. Their law, not real law, corporate law, but they're not. And I thought there was just some of them weren't lawyers. And then when I called the the Law Society, they said none of them are. None. Nada. Not a one. Well, it says right on their website, you can't practice law without a license. Well, if they're not licensed lawyers, then how is it they're sitting on the bench practicing law? Unless, of course, they're not practicing law, then that would make perfect sense. And they're not practicing law. They're administrating. And therefore, you're not even in a court. Okay? And who were the majority? What got me going was we were in court one time and I asked this justice a question. He threw us out of court. I thought, well, that was kind of rude. And who is this clown anyways? Turns out he's the next vice principal of a high school. I mean, what the hell's that all about? So he brings the same attitude he had in high school to the bench. You know, I'm the authority, don't question me. And he throws you out of the court, which wasn't a court. It's a classroom, it's a schoolroom. It's a crock of shit. Now, of course, when I called, I couldn't get through. And he was very good, this guy I was talking to, the Law Society, because they're the ones that give these guys their bar cards. And he was freaked out by it. Like, when we got through the conversation, he was actually totally freaked out by it. You know, he goes, holy crap, do you know what this means? Yep. Every single dime that was ever collected through one of these courts that doesn't even have a judge sitting on the bench has to be returned to the people you stole it from, and anybody that was ever incarcerated by one of these non-judges has to be compensated. You know, like, how in the hell, if it says right here you can't practice law, it's right on your site. The Law Society of Upper Canada, who has the monopoly on this so-called law, states specifically you can't practice law without a license. So how in the hell did these guys end up on the bench? And then he said, I know how. Okay, tell me how. He said, well, the Chief Justice appoints him. Okay, so the Chief Justice appoints him. Is the Chief Justice a lawyer? Well, yeah. Well, doesn't the Chief Justice read his own crap, or your crap? It's a female. Could be a transgender, I don't know. Maybe it was a male at one time. Maybe it was a monkey, who knows? But, so let's see. The Chief Justice appoints people who are not lawyers to sit on the bench to practice law or give the public the idea that it's law, isn't that against the law? Isn't the Chief Justice breaking the law as set down by the Law Society? Now, when I did call the Chief Justice's office, of which the guy from the Law Society gave me the in number, because I couldn't get through the gatekeepers. God knows I tried. But he had a direct line into the Chief Justice's office, so I called it. And they didn't want to discuss this at all. In fact, they told me that I should call the general information line because they would be better able to help me with my questions. And I'm saying to the Chief Justice's office, you telling me I'm in the Chief Justice's office? Yes. And the Chief Justice's office is telling me that whoever that you hired as a gatekeeper to answer the phone out in the front office is better able to answer my questions than the Chief Justice's office? Yes, that's what we're saying. Well, you're loony. And then they got all excited and ran away and hung up the phone. So I'm going to go through a little bit of this. Now, who are these justices? Now, this is, again, in the Toronto paper, the Toronto Star, which is just another rag. It's a left-wing rag on the same bird. Same stories as the right-wing bird, only they're written in such a way to get into the brain of the left versus right brain. And the newspapers do a wonderful job of divide and conquer. Because you hear, you're reading the Toronto, that's a left-wing thing, as he picks up the Toronto Sun, which is the right-wing paper. Oh, you're one of those guys. If you're American, you'd probably vote for Trump, would you? So the main newspapers divide and conquer the public. And they're written in such a way to do so. Anyways, this is staff reporter Jacques Gallant. So we know that if he's writing for Toronto Star, we know the story's likely not going to be correct. So let's go through and see what is right and what is not right in here. They, regarding the justices, have a background in school administration, social work, and translation, and they have the power to send you to frickin' jail. Of the 14 justices of the peace recently appointed by the provincial government, only 5 have law degrees. Okay. Now, up until this time, none of them had law degrees, and that is backed up by the conversation I had with the Law Society, because I thought some of them would have been lawyers. In fact, I thought the majority of them would have been lawyers because they're sitting on the bench playing law. But the gentleman from the Law Society made no bones about it. At the time I talked to him, which is probably about a year ago, none of them, not one of them, had a law degree. So you got these guys sitting on the bench. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? But none of these people that are asking you the question have any knowledge of law. It's freaking brilliant. With so few lawyers serving in the position, the JP system in Ontario is still considered a lay bench, yet the justices are able to deny bail and detain individuals pending trial, as well as to incarcerate them for certain offenses. Ontario, unlike some provinces, does not require the JPs to have a formal legal education or experience. They simply need a university or college degree and 10 years of full-time work or volunteer experience. Now, you see, people read this stuff in the newspapers and they go, oh, okay, unlike some provinces, the JPs don't have to have a formal legal education or experience. They simply need a university or college degree and 10 years of full-time work or volunteer experience. Now, this is written in the Toronto Star. And what is I just read you is absolutely wrong. Okay? It is completely and totally incorrect. But there it is in the Toronto Star. Now, how does that happen? Well, because it's a newspaper that is there to divide and conquer, to deceive you. Now, while it does say this at the beginning, if you go look up requirements to be a justice of peace in Ontario, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it is, you'll find it. This is what it says, but then as you go down further, it says that if someone is recommended, that none of the prerequisites apply. So if somebody says, Jimmy here, a good friend of mine, we work some deals together and whatnot, and I think he'd be a good justice. And they say, well, does he have a university or college degree? No. Did he spend 10 years of full-time work or volunteer experience? No. No, he has none of those qualifications, but I do recommend that he would make a good JP. Oh, okay. In that case, we don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. Okay? Now, maybe they'll put that in farther down in the story here, but the fact is, what we find most of the time in this governmental nonsense is that what they tell you in one spot, they remove in another spot. Okay, it's the same thing as the private prosecution. Well, it says you can bring a private prosecution. The private prosecution would make you the prosecutor. Says you can do it. And you can do it up to a point. And you have a justice of the peace who apparently doesn't know nothing about law. You bring your claim in, and he reads it over, and he decides or she decides whether it has merit to move it forward, even though they don't know anything about law. And that gets you to the next stage, which gets you into a court, at which you can say you can voice your claim in that. And then that one, the judge there decides whether or not it has enough merit to bring it forward. And then if it does have enough merit to bring it forward, then at that point, the Crown prosecutor comes in and takes over your private prosecution, nullifying any idea of a private prosecution. And that Crown prosecutor, he decides or she decides, after it's already been decided twice there's enough merit to bring it forward, okay, then the gatekeeper comes in and says, well, I don't think it's in the public interest, or I don't think we have a chance of conviction, therefore we're just going to throw it out. So this idea of a private prosecution is a total load of bunk, just like this idea of the JP system is anything but a total load of bunk. Anyway, so that's something a growing number of this is going on with the story now, that's something a growing number of criminal defense lawyers say needs to change, even as the role of justice of the peace has evolved to become more powerful and complex. They point out the job requirements have remained the same. There are no job requirements. Okay? We got to make sure everybody understands there are no job requirements. Anybody can be a justice of the peace with zero education, no legal education, no 10 years full-time work or volunteer experience. None of that is required to be a justice of the peace. None of it. Lorenzo Bertahelli Haiti or whatever, parliamentary assistant to Attorney General Madeleine Malure, whose office I have spoken to many, many times, is revealing the current roles and responsibilities of JPs as well as the qualifications for the job. At Malure's request, a spokesman for Malure said the review continues. They're dealing with complicated legal issues, not law issues. Remember that, okay? They never deal with law issues. They only deal with legal issues, and legal issues are corporate issues. And they're dealing with human liberty, okay? Because the legal system can't deal with a man. They don't deal with humans. And a human is something made up in the mind, as is legal, made up in the mind. Okay? They're abstract concepts. And this is what they got you tied down with. They're dealing with complicated legal issues. Of course, they're complicated. Law is not complicated. Legal's complicated because legal is a pile of crap. It's based on deception and lies. So yeah, it makes it complicated. Okay, which lie how are we going to swing this now? How are we not going to tangle ourselves up in our own lies and deceptions? And they're dealing with human liberty. That's the liberty of a cow. Or a great ape, as they say, that's where humans came from. They have no proof of it. It's something they made up in their minds. Okay? As in a play, as in the arts. If you follow this through, science is of the arts. Legal is of the arts. Okay? The arts is all based on fiction, non-realities. Okay? If somebody takes and draws a picture of you and puts it on a wall and say, oh, that's so-and-so. No, it's not so-and-so. Okay? It's an artist rendering of so-and-so. That is not so-and-so. Okay? It's a fictional representation, something made up in the mind and stuck on a wall. Same as your identification that you carry around. Okay, so the whole system is based on the arts, which is fictional. Nothing to do with reality whatsoever. So, complicated legal issues, and they're dealing with human liberty, and the law is changing and complicated, said Criminal Lawyers Association President Anthony Mustalalis. And so to ensure fairness, you need to know the ground rules, which are constantly changing, and lawyers in the best position to know what the ground rules are and to stay up to date with them. Because the lawyers have the monopoly on law, fictional law, okay? Fictional law only, the legal system. So the government can't do nothing about it. The Ministry of the Minister of the Attorney General's office can't do nothing about it. Okay, only the lawyers can do something about it. And Shakespeare said it. Can't say it much more plainly than Shakespeare said. First, kill all the lawyers. Because you can't have law as long as you have lawyers. And that's a simple fact. Lawyers are attorneys, and that is who has turned from one lord to another. It's pretty bloody simple to understand. JPs who wear black robes and green sashes and earn $127,000 a year are often the first point of contact for the individuals entering the criminal justice system. We are the criminals. We have the monopoly on the system, and the system is just for us. Can't get much easier than that either, folks. There are high standards. Oh, God, help me. There are high standards for Ontario's justice of the peace. The ministry has full confidence in the ability of justices of the peace to carry out their responsibilities, said Attorney General spokesperson or spokeswoman Christine Burke. There are high standards for Ontario's justice of the peace. There are no standards for Ontario's justice of the peace. But the spokesman for the Attorney General's office, Christine Burke, says there are high standards for Ontario's justice of the peace, even though there are no standards for Ontario's justice of the peace. This is written in the Toronto Star, one of the biggest newspapers in the freaking country. The ministry has full confidence in the ability of the justices of the peace to carry out their responsibilities. Now, how could you have any confidence in someone that has no capacity to even understand what the law is to carry out the responsibilities? But Christine Burke, Attorney General spokesman, is quite confident. Kind of sounds like the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Haven't won a game. They're going into their 50th year of no wins as far as the cup is concerned, but they are confident that they'll come out on top. Same kind of garbage language. They receive training and mentoring before assuming their duties, which includes presiding over the vast majority of bail hearings and provincial offense matters such as traffic violations and authorizing search warrants. Yet, they have no capacity to understand the legal system because they're not lawyers. They're really just patsies. They receive training and mentoring. I imagine that's how to put on their robe and how to sit up straight in their chair and how to kind of look half-assed intelligent. And they do. They preside over the vast majority of the bail hearings and provincial offense matters such as traffic violations. And that's exactly why I called the Law Society of Upper Canada. Okay? These are not offenses, okay? Somebody broke a rule or regulation created by the corporation, and so these guys aren't lawyers. They know nothing about law, okay? So you go into there and you say, well, this guy said you were speeding. What do you say? Well, I wasn't speeding. Well, let me see. I'm supposed to believe this guy even if he's lying because, well, he's part of our game. Did we tell you that we're all interconnected? We all work for the Queen. We're all employees of the Queen. So you really are screwed, aren't you? So here's your fine to piss off. Okay? It's kangaroo court. Not even a court. Just a bunch of kangaroos. To make assumptions that these things can be quickly learned through courses is dangerous, said lawyer Sean Robichaud. Really? To make assumptions? The whole legal system is based on assumptions. The rule of law is an ambiguous term. And you got this lawyer saying to make assumptions that these things can be quickly learned through courses is dangerous. It's unlawful. It's a fraud. To bring someone into a room and call it a courtroom and to find you guilty of an offense when you have no knowledge of any of this legal crap. It's a foreign language. It's a language only known by the lawyers. And if you're not a lawyer, you don't know the language. So how in the hell the court system is set up based on the legal language? And if you're not a lawyer and you're sitting on the bench, then obviously you have no clue as to even the meaning of the words. And you're destroying people's lives. The whole thing at the POA court, the Provincial Offences Courts, is a complete and total construed fraud. And that's why when I was talking to the guy from the Law Society, and he finally went, holy crap, do you know what this means? Yes, I do. Do you? Every single nickel or dime that's ever been collected through one of these provincial offenses courts with these justices who are not lawyers, who I need no requirement whatsoever to sit on the bench other than somebody, I think Charlie or Susie would make a good JP, has to be returned to those people. And anyone that was ever incarcerated by one of these clowns has to be compensated for their loss of their liberty. Okay, what else we got here? For example, he highlighted that a lawyer would be better equipped to understand the impact a jail sentence can have on a person when weighing that option against others as a justice of the peace versus someone with no legal training. No, really? Gee whiz. Quite recently, there's been a lot of comment about the level of pretrial detention in Ontario, and in my view, much of that is from JPs with no or little prior knowledge of the judicial system, said lawyer Peter Zadek. Really? A lot of comment recently, huh? On the amount of pretrial detention in Ontario caused by what? The JPs. Now, if you haven't caught on to this yet, okay, what's going on in this story, there's been a lot of flack in the courts of late. I haven't been in a court in a little while. Last time I was in there, I was assaulted again. That time I actually called the police on the police because the police that assaulted me were town police, and then I phoned the OPP who came, and they were the ones that assaulted me previously. It's friggin' ludicrous. But of course, the one that they waited long enough for the one that I called the police on to make sure he vacated the premises. Now, he was supposed to be in the courtroom. He was designated to the courtroom that day, and he was supposed to stay in that courtroom that day. But then he ran away. So again, he broke his employment contract when he ran away when I called the other cops. I mean, it's just like little kids running around. The only problem is they got guns. Force of law. Force of the fraudulent law. Anyways, so what's going on here is the lawyers who know damn well, because the lawyers are in the courtrooms while the JPs are sitting on the bench. You get busted for a driving offense for whatever you got busted for, and then you go and get yourself a lawyer. The lawyer knows full well that the guy sitting on the bench ain't a lawyer, he ain't a judge. He has no capacity to understand the legal language. There's no capacity whatsoever to understand legalese because they haven't trained in this stuff. So to all the lawyers that ever stood there with a client know damn well the guy sitting on the bench has no clue what's going on. And they ain't never stood up and said anything about it. It's all part of the fraud. So now all of a sudden we get these kind of nonsensical expressions here. Where am I here? It seems their default position is to do whatever the Crown suggests, which is detention or sort of this mindless imposition of unduly restrictive and unjustified bail conditions. Exactly. The Crown stands there and says, Your Honor, this guy has 2 priors. He jaywalked one time, and another time he threw a candy wrapper on the ground. Yes, Your Honor, that's exactly true, and we are suggesting no bail. And to be held for the next 3 months, preferably in a solitary confinement. If not, then with a transgendered person till we get back to court. That's the stance and the suggestion from the Crown, Your Honor. And the guy sitting on the bench getting $127,000 a year, who's not trained in legalese, who has no ability whatsoever to know what the hell he's even doing there, What's he going to do? Is he going to argue with the Crown? Well, the Crown suggested you're going into solitary with your transgender person for 3 months. Bail denied. Have a nice day. Get out of here. People ought to be really, really angry at this point. This is going on not just in Ontario. This goes on everywhere. But now what we're witnessing is what the lawyers all knew, what the government all knew, what the Law Society all knew all these years, and now what are they doing? They're centering out that the problem is the JPs. If you're going through this story with me, what's the problem? It ain't the legal system, okay? It's not the government who legislates all this shit, but it's the JPs themselves, okay? And I said this a long time to the JPs and to the Law Society. These guys are nothing but patsies being used to abuse people and to steal from them, and everybody knows it except maybe the JPs. Hey, Jimmy, would you like to be a justice of the peace? I see you were a counselor at a school, and a lot of these people come out of the schools, right? Because they have this little authoritarian mindset in them, which is what they're looking for. They're not looking for honest people. They're looking for narcissistic people and narcissistic people and people who like to be able to be in some form of authority. So, what are you doing? Well, I was vice principal there, but I kind of got retired, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, how would you like to be a JP? What's a JP? Justice of Peace. I don't know nothing about that. Well, you were a principal, weren't you? Or vice principal? Yeah. What's that got to do with this? Well, you know how to yell and scream and throw your authority around? Oh, yeah, I enjoyed the shit out of that. Detentions and that? Oh, absolutely. Like that. Well, same kind of thing, actually. It's really just still like school. And we dress you up, and then we pay $127,000. Really, $127,000 a year? Do I get to keep my other pension? Absolutely. Well, shit. Now I'm interested. What do I got to know? Not really anything. Well, don't I have to be a lawyer or something? Nope. Well, don't I have to know something about the legal system? Nope. So I just dress up in this black gown and then sit there and I look important. You got her, bud. And then how do I know what I'm supposed to do? The Crown Attorney will let you know. Really? Yeah, he'll make recommendations, and you just go with it. Well, that sounds pretty friggin' easy. Probably Garbage Man could be a justice of the peace. Absolutely. We have some of those, actually. Friends of friends, This is what they call your legal system. But what they're trying to do here is take the light off the legal system and throw it onto the JPs. Okay, so you're supposed to get angry with the JPs, right? When it's the system that put them there. So they could all make their money by beating on the innocent. Where am I here? Justice of the Peace. Let me see. Okay, Justice of the Peace also have the power to impose discretionary publication bans on certain information, such as on the identity of murder or attempted murder victims. JPR also order publication bans on evidence given during bail hearings, but those are mandatory under the law if requested. In 2 recent high-profile stabbings in Toronto, the same Justice of the Peace immediately imposed discretionary publication bans on the identities of the victims at the request of the Crown, without hearing evidence on why the bans were necessary, as is required in rules set out by the Supreme Court of Canada. As a result, media had to challenge the bans after the fact. Both bans were eventually lifted. Publication bans that are discretionary should never be rubber stamped, said lawyer Iris Fletcher, who has represented the Star. Well, now we know that Iris is up to her arson fraud. We have the Supreme Court test for when publication bans can be ordered, and it's very high threshold. Justices of the peace are often dealing with these matters in bail court and other high-volume courts, which is very busy, but the same test still needs to be applied. Some provinces, including Alberta, Quebec, Nova Scotia, have a two-tier JP system, entrusting only lawyers with legal experience to preside over trials. The other class of JPs, which does not require legal training, deals with more administrative matters such as performing marriage and administering oaths. There has been some minor legislative push in the past to modify Ontario's JP system. Liberal MP David Orzatti, then a backbencher, now Minister of Government and Consumer Services. Now I've talked to his office. That's another mess case, that one is. Tabled a private member's bill in 2012 that would have created two classes of JP similar to other provinces. The class that could preside over bail hearings would be known as presiding justices of the peace, who would require 5 years' experience as a lawyer before appointment, compared with the minimum 10 years' experience needed to become a judge. The bill did not go beyond first reading, and the legislator, Orzetti's office, did not respond to requests for comment this week. Well, of course he wouldn't. Having a predominantly non-lawyer bench of justices of the peace can be beneficial as they bring a common sense practical approach to cases, said lawyer James Morton, who previously served as counsel of the Association of Justices of the Peace Ontario. Having a predominantly non-lawyer bench of justices of the peace can be beneficial as they bring a common sense practical approach to cases, said lawyer James Morton. Now there's a big mouthful of nonsense. Having people on the bench with no ability to understand what legalese is can be beneficial as they bring a common sense, common being the lowest denominator, being that of the lowest, stupidest on the planet. It brings that practical approach to the cases. And this guy's a lawyer, so he knows how to string his words. I'm actually very comfortable with a non-lawyer looking at someone in a bail hearing, providing they're trained, and saying, do I think this person poses a risk? Should they be on release, he said. Well, now you got one man dealing with another man's life who has no understanding of the language of legalese, which means he has no understanding of the legal system at all, because without a full and total and complete understanding of legalese, then you become illiterate, incompetent, ignorant, not in a position to make any decision on anything based on legalese because you don't have any experience to understand what the hell that even means. So now you have one illiterate person deciding, do I think this person poses a risk? Well, you don't even understand what the hell you're doing on the bench. Yet you're going to make a decision on whether or not you personally, on Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after your wife just called you and told she's leaving you, is this guy produce some sort of a risk or pose a risk? Okay? This hasn't got nothing to do with law. This ain't how law operates. While agreeing there is need for bail reform and to deal with to deal with over-incarceration, Morton said the problem isn't so much the justice of the peace, but the law itself. I don't see it as injustices of peace over-incarcerating. I don't see it as justice of the peace over-incarcerating. I think the whole system is set up in such a way that if you had a bench of 300 lawyers, all of whom were fully up to speed on the law, they would be doing roughly the same thing, he said. Now, see, this legal system is completely based on assumptions and presumption, and that last paragraph there was based on nothing but assumptions and presumptions. There is nothing factual in it. There's nothing to base anything on it. There's no markers in there. There's some jackass spewing off that these justices of the peace have no legal ease training whatsoever, would be doing exactly the same thing as if you had a bench of 300 lawyers, that this one illiterate justice of the peace would be doing basically the same thing as the other 300 lawyers would be doing. You can base that on nothing because it's based on nothing. So now we have some memorable justices of the peace. There have been several memorable cases of justices of the peace coming under fire for their conduct both in and out of the courtroom. Looking good, Errol Messiah was fired last year after a discipline panel found he had sexually harassed a number of women in the Whitby courthouse, including telling a female prosecutor she was looking good, baby. Appointed in 2007, he had previously been reprimanded for making similar remarks to women at the Oshawa courthouse. He is currently challenging the divisional court, his termination and the decision not to pay his $616,000 legal bill for the discipline hearing. And we have some questionable remarks. The Toronto JP, Robert Whittaker, retired last year before a discipline hearing, could hear allegations that he had made insensitive remarks to defendants. According to transcript, he told a Somali man that he did not appear to be integrating into the Canadian lifestyle, questioned whether a woman with colitis should be allowed to drive a car, and made comments about mental illness that one lawyer in the courtroom said were profoundly disrespectful. Solange Guberman, sleeping on the job. The Ottawa JP resigned before discipline panel could rule on the allegations against her, including her pervasive lack of understanding of basic law, falling asleep in court, screaming at staff, and relying on police officers and prosecutors for advice. She also allegedly spoke French when she was aware not all parties could understand. Justice Delay, Adele Romagnoli, the Newmarket JP, was upbraided earlier this year by Supreme Court Justice Mark Edwards for wanting to take nearly 11 months to decide whether to accept guilty pleas and impose fines on several speeding offenses. Edwards also noted that rulings by Romagnoli had been overturned in at least 3 other cases where she did not follow just joint submissions on sentencing. Punctuality is everything. Alfred Bud Johnson, in a memorable decision, Johnson threw out more than 60 cases, many of them traffic offenses, in 2012 because the prosecutor was 71 seconds late. The move was described as draconian and interpreted by the Ontario Justice Colley, who accepted the City of Toronto's appeal for mass dismissal. So you want to be a justice of the peace. Here are some of the requirements to become a JP. Qualifications: at least 10 years of full-time work experience, paid or volunteer, university degree or college equivalent in any field. How to apply: an individual could submit an application form to the Justice of the Peace Appointments Advisory Committee only when a JP vacancy is advertised. What you do need to do to become JP here are some of the requirements. Qualifications: at least 10 years full-time work experience, paid or volunteer, university degree or college equivalent. How to apply: an individual can submit an application form, the Justice of the Peace Appointments Advisory. The process: the committee is made up of a judge, a Justice of the Peace, a Justice of the Peace, so the committee is made up of a judge, a Justice of the Peace, a Justice of the Peace familiar with Aboriginal issues, and 4 other members appointed by the Attorney General. Aside from the necessary qualifications, the committee also looks for diversity among applicants and to see if they possess skills and abilities, including a high level of achievement in employment and or community service, and demonstrated good judgment in the face of real or perceived conflict of interest. The committee then classifies candidates as not qualified, qualified, or highly qualified. They may or may not interview an individual before assigning a classification. Now, that's part of it, okay? If you go look it up, you will find that the other part of it says that everything it says in this part that's printed here is not necessary. That's what you will find, guaranteed, okay? And so this is another case of the newspaper playing games, basically. There's a lot of heat going on to the courts right now. And this is a pathetic crack at basically saying that the legal system's all good. The justice of the peace, who we've known ever since we started using them, have no qualifications, so it's their fault, not our fault. It's not the legislature's fault, which legislated the justice of the peace in the first place. It's not the legislator's fault who gave the Law Society of Upper Canada monopoly on lawyers, nor is it the legislator's fault that all legislative acts are all the language is written by lawyers who have the monopoly on the language, of which is not taught in the schools. You can learn French, you can learn English, but you can't learn the most important language on the planet, which is called legalese, and then you go to court and they say, well, people say, like, where's your lawyer? I don't have a lawyer. Well, ignorance is no excuse for law, or not knowing the law or whatever. Well, maybe not. I know the law. The legal system I don't have a clue about. Apparently the JPs don't have a clue about the legal system either, so we're all in the same boat, aren't we? We're there to have our bones picked by these lawyers. Or we're given monopoly on law, which is not the law. It's color of, similar to like but not law, and the force of law. Okay, it's criminal activity is all it is, dressed up as government-sanctioned law. And we have to wrap our brains around that kind of stuff as well. Anyways, what time have we got? It's 1:07. I am tired as hell today. My back is somewhat out. And if somebody has a story they want to talk about, the phone number here is 718-717-8296. And again, that's 718-717-8296. Yeah. Somebody out there must have a story about something that they want to discuss. One would hope so anyways. Not that there's a shortage of stories. There's one other story that I have not looked at yet at all. Where is it here? Okay. This Panama thing. I haven't spent 1 minute looking at this yet. I know it's all over the internet. I don't really care that much about it. It's like, oh my God, it's a leak, it's a leak, it's a leak. This stuff's been going on since the beginning of freaking time. Okay? Since the first legislative assembly, or whatever you want to call it, in Rome or Greece or where, Athens, wherever the hell it was. It's been going on. Okay? So this is nothing freaking new. Some big expose, right? So let's look through this real quick here. This is from The Guardian, published on Sunday, April the 10th, which would be today. Okay, in June 2013, two Swiss lawyers held a private telephone chat. They were annoyed. In London, David Cameron had just given a speech. The Prime Minister promised to sweep away decades of offshore tax secrecy by introducing a central register. Anybody who owned an offshore company would have to declare it with the authorities. Did the same thing here in Canada. The G8 summit to be hosted by Cameron on the shores of Lower in Northern Ireland was looming top of the agenda, how to stop aggressive tax avoidance. For much of the 20th century, hiding your money was simple. You got a lawyer who is versed in legalese, filled in a form, set up a Swiss bank account or offshore shell company. Nobody asked any questions. For a couple $1,000s a year, it was possible to hide away profits where governments could never find them. But in the UK, crown dependencies and overseas territories where financial services were the main source of jobs and income, times were changing. In tropical tax havens such as the British Virgin Islands, chill wind, or at least the threat of one, was blowing. One of the Swiss lawyers was Sandro Hangartner, the Zurich boss of a Panamanian law firm, Mossack Fonesco. The other man, his disgruntled caller, was Sasha Zugers, and his company looked after the assets of some very wealthy South Americans. An email to his head office in Panama, Hangartner wrote, Sasha is not very pleased about the development with the British Virgin Islands. He was now looking for alternatives. In other words, other secret jurisdictions where clients might park their money. And for the network of international lawyers, the accountants that service the offshore industry, these were troubled times. Cameron's speech was merely the latest piece of unwelcome attention since 2008 and the global financial crisis. Cash-strapped exchequers had been trying to get their hands on billions in potential tax revenue hidden offshore. What wasn't in doubt was the vast sums involved, according to the U.S. economist Gabriel Zuckman. 8% of the world's wealth, the vast $7.6 trillion U.S., was stashed in tax havens. He estimates the loss in global tax revenue at $200 billion per year. That includes $35 billion in the U.S. and $78 billion in Europe. Previous attempts to bring about transparency had flopped, but now the world's leading economies, G20, G8, and Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, were apparently pursuing the theme with zeal. If Cameron got it his way, British overseas territories such as BVI and Gibraltar would soon have to drop a register for beneficial owners, the real owners of a company, even though their names might not appear on the shareholder register. Let's see. As Hangartner admitted, the reason many clients use offshore structures was to keep their identities confidential. This was for a variety of reasons. Often one offshore company would own another and another, like so many Russian dolls. Now this elaborate system of concealment was under threat. Now, like I said, this has been going on forever. There isn't a government out there that didn't know this was going on. Okay. Our own ex-finance minister, Prime Minister Paul Martin, who is a UN minion, as every other politician is. They're all vetted. They're all brought up through a system. And, he was basically given, I forget what it was called, something steam lines or whatever, shipping company, of which I think is registered in Panama. So you don't pay taxes on the damn thing. I mean, this is not news that this has been going on. Okay, but this has a bigger story, just like the legal system I was talking about with the JPs earlier. This is all connected to each other. This is all about moving to the next stage, if you will, of the global takedown. Mossack Fonesca is a law firm based in Panama, founded in 1977. It's the world's fourth biggest provider of offshore services. Until the publication this week, the Panama Papers, it was mostly obscure. In fact, it cites at the heart of the global offshore industry and acts for about 300,000 companies. Okay, so it's not like the so-called government, which is a company. Okay, your government, be it your federal government, your state government, your provincial government, your town government, your city government, are all companies. They're all corporations. All of them. And for any government to say, "Oh, we didn't know what was going on, eh?" Or the lawyers go, "Oh, like, we didn't know neither, eh?" Well, who's involved in it? The corporations and the lawyers. It's all a fraud. It's all a scam. But we're not privy because we're illiterate. Now, the only way to fix this is to make sure that every man, woman, and child in every nation on the planet is literate in legalese, or, which is much easier to do, that is ban the use of legalese and bring us back to law. Law is extremely simple to understand. Law is based from a moral standpoint, where legalese is based from an amoral standpoint or a corporate standpoint. Corporations being amoral. They have no moral value. There's no moral value in a corporation. Okay, and that's the difference between legal and law. So what we need to do is either make sure everybody is completely versed in legalese so that when they do walk into a courtroom for something as simple as a parking ticket, they have they have a level playing field of which they're playing on. Otherwise, get rid of it. Or as Shakespeare said, and many others have said in the past, and as those in the 1200s said and did, they went after the lawyers. They figured out what the problem was. The lawyers and the judges taking advantage of everybody else through language that nobody else understands and calling it law, which it's not. So the whole thing from the get-go is a complete and total fraud, and it needs to be dealt with. So to me, the easy way to fix it is, instead of putting everybody through the arduous deal of learning legalese, eradicate the language from the planet. And if you're caught speaking legalese, you will be arrested, because chances are, if you're speaking legalese, you are trying to deceive someone, because that is the game of legalese, deception. Okay, so the acts for about 300,000 companies. That's quite a few companies. That's one law firm. Moss Fawn, as the company styles itself, employs 600 staff in 42 countries. Its offices are located in the world's leading secrecy jurisdictions: Jersey, Cyprus, Luxembourg, the Swiss canton of Zug. I guess you could put a O in there and call it Zog. All nodes on the superhighway of global capital. Its corporate slogan sums up the firm's mission to help the rich stay rich. Wealth management as you deserve it. Finesca says it complies with international protocols to ensure its companies are not used for money laundering, tax dodging, or other illicit purposes. But the Panama Papers have shone a light on a hidden world the firm says it does not recognize, one that sometimes facilitates crime, launders dirty money, and finds ways of busting sanctions, plus evading tax. This week's revelations have focused on politicians, celebrities, and the murky finances of Vladimir Putin's friends and the offshore tax arrangements made by David Cameron's late father, Ian. So this goes on. One theme emerges as anxiety. Wealthy individuals with undeclared offshore bank accounts are afraid they might get rumbled. Another theme is victimhood. The super rich, it appears, feel they are being unfairly picked upon, persecuted even. Yeah. They're picking the bones of the working man, and they feel victimed. Let's see here. Yeah, it's just all fraud. That's all. That's all it is. It's fraud. You know, the guy that says here, we shall inform the police. Well, the police are in on it, right? They're all connected. You know, if they weren't all connected, which they are all connected, none of this could possibly go down. Okay? You have the very rich who control the legal system and the corporate system, and then and then you legislate your countries to have the monopoly on force. How are we going to make out in this mess? Not very well. Why is there so many poor people in North America? Why are the numbers of the poor increasing rapidly in North America? Is it something the working man did? No. They just keep writing laws and rules and regulations, and everything they're doing is moving us farther away from our roots to bring us under international law, which for the most part we already are. You know, they protected the law system here to no end, but now they're starting to loosen it up and they're trying to pick away at it because they want to redo things, okay? And that is to totally internationalize the whole system, to become a total, complete corporate system of global governance of the global corporation, of which you think you're being enslaved now. You think you're being enslaved now. You think you're being run over now. You just let them keep moving forward with what they're up to. And then you're not a Canadian citizen, subject, slave, or a USA citizen, subject, slave. No, you will get to go the whole route, the final empire where you and your family can declare your global citizenship. And so you are the same as everybody else now. You're a global citizen, subject, slave. We are one. Huh? We are one. That's what they're aiming at. That's what we're letting them get away with. No pushback from nowhere. These stories in these newspapers, they make me basically want to throw up. And what really kills me is this stuff that I'm looking at here today is all stuff that we read years and years and years and years ago. And that's the really sad part. That these newspapers, they know all this stuff. They've known all this stuff for a long, long time, because it was 99 that Rockefeller again said, we want to thank the major newspapers, media, for adhering to their oath of silence, basically, their agreement of silence. Because had the media shone the light on what we're up to, we never got away with it. So the media only does what it's asked to do when it's asked to do it. Only the stories that are released in the paper are released when they're told to release them. By the time you read about anything in the newspaper, it's already been dealt with in the back rooms. It's already in place. There's probably already been legislation passed in order to back it up. So the newspapers are guilty of, I guess, withholding pertinent information to the people. And they say, well, that's not our job, right? Their actual job is to do as they're told. You know, you got your mayor. I see another bunch of mayors going to China again. You know, what could have you ever met a town mayor? I mean, you're not talking to bright people here. You're not talking to bright people at all. You're talking to people that that have ego problems, they like to have their egos stroked. They want to be told they're important. That's who your mayor likely is, and they really want you to go to China because they feel you have the capacity to help. Bring jobs to your neck of the woods and so and so and so forth, even though the mayor doesn't seem to have any idea how come the jobs that were here disappeared in the first place. I really don't, I really don't know what it's going to take. I really don't know. They're pushing that guaranteed income now. That's the last thing you want. It's the last thing anybody should want, but they're pushing people so far against the wall. People are looking at this as an option of some sort. Don't know anything about it. The people go, oh, yeah, this is great. We need a guaranteed income. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea where it came from. They have no idea what the consequences of accepting it are. This is how shallow we've become. We'll just keep picking your pockets till you can't afford anything anymore, and then we're going to say, you know what, we need a guaranteed income. You say, oh, that's exactly what we need. Nobody asks you why their pockets got picked, why they can't afford to stay in their houses anymore, why they can't afford to feed the children anymore. We've become that shallow. We can't even ask these basic questions anymore. Oh, the government's going to give us a guaranteed income. Oh, well, that's good because we can't deal with this anymore. So the government's going to come and rescue us. Well, it's the same government that put you in the position that you need a rescuing from. And I'd hate to think that George Carlin is correct. I would really hate to believe that George Carlin is actually correct. The majority of the people will remain willfully ignorant. And that has to take some certain amount of effort to be willfully ignorant when all of this stuff's going on right around in front of your face. And people don't seem to have the capacity to ask simple questions, to go and find the answers to those simple questions. Well, we're better off than a lot of countries. What kind of an asinine statement is that? But I hear it constantly. You live in the richest country, and that goes for America too. It goes for most countries that haven't had the shit bombed out of them yet for some nefarious reason. But I mean, just think about it. China has, 1.2, 1.3 billion people, and it's basically the same landmass as the United States. And the United States has 300 million plus however million illegal immigrants. So, China has basically a billion more people on the same landmass than America has. And America don't manufacture nothing anymore. Now, this idea that we're out of this, we're out of that, we're out of this, we got to be sustainable crap. Well, wait a minute. If China can handle a billion more people in the same basic landmass size as America, then how come America's in trouble? We up here got more resources than per capita than any place on the freaking planet. You can't go anywhere anymore without somebody, without a sign saying, donate to this, donate to that. Why do these people not have anything? They're the richest people per capita on the planet as far as resources go. So how is it these people are having so much trouble? Simple. It's designed that way. It's designed that way. So we're being unnecessarily hurt and harmed by these so-called politicians who are all globalist. I mean, if you look at the word affairs, affairs means business. So you have all this foreign affairs, which is foreign business, which means your country is nothing more, or at least your government is nothing more than a corporation. And you've been signed up, registered as chattel for the debt. You know, Mandel House. I don't have it right in front of me now, but I mean, if you just look up what Mandel House supposedly said to Wilson, it's pretty bloody clear, isn't it? Okay. We've been pledged to the debt. We've been responsible for all the nefarious actions of the government. And then when you get really angry and you vote the government out and vote a new one in, nothing's changed. It's still the corporation. And you're still pledging the debt. You're the security. And so they move their program forward, which is not your program. It has nothing positive to do with what you would see positive for your land, as they continue on with their foreign affairs. You know, you can look at the bombing of Iraq as a foreign affair, foreign business plan. That's all it is. And now that all the countries are member states of the United Nations, you can accept that you are being governed by an offshore corporation. So you don't have any so-called government in your own lands. Your government is just taking the dictate from the UN and its multitude of organizations to control everything that has to do with your life. Your food, your water, your clothing, your education, your transportation, your housing, your health, all controlled from these tax-exempt foundations that make up and created the United Nations. So again, I don't know what it's going to take. You got a law system that's not law. You got an education system that's not education. You got a health system that's not about health. You got a food system that's completely poisoned. And all of this stuff was legislated by your so-called governments into a so-called lawful position. And every single one of these things is designed to harm. You know, there's supposed to be a whole bunch of bikers. I don't know if they did it already or not. The 26 biker ride into D.C. or whatever. The million biker ride or whatever. All I can say at this time is that hopefully there's enough bikers. I mean, bikers are supposed to be tough. That's the image that's put forward. That some of these bikers have the capacity to get off their bikes, or don't even get off your damn bike. Just ride it on up into the White House or into the legislative building and start arresting these dicks that pretend they're the law, that pretend they're the authority. Just go in and arrest them. Because all it is, your government, from your lowest level at your town level to the federal level, make up a part of the international crime ring known as government. It's all criminal because it's all designed to do harm. And to do harm is against the law. Every single man, woman, and child is being harmed. I know of no one that's not being harmed. And that's against the law. Just a second here, we got a caller. You got to excuse me, Dan. I'm a little ticked off, and I'm very tired. I didn't get home from work last night till late, and I had to do that show last night. We got a caller?
Good afternoon, Ron.
Vinnie, my good man, how are you?
Hey, not bad. How are you doing, Ron?
I'm tired, man. I'm really wore out.
Hey, Ron. You ordered a pizza yesterday.
I did. Never showed up.
Yeah. Hey. Well, it's ready now. I never said that in my advertising that it was a quick delivery.
No, you didn't say that.
I didn't.
But that's
say
what
that
they
at
said
all.
about. But see, that's what they said about Vinnie's Pizzeria. They said Vinnie is an honest guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you don't use any of that legalese crap, right? You know, you get your pizza when Vinnie gets your pizza ready.
That's right. Well, the problem is this, Ron. You asked for the works on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was running out of some ingredients here, and I had to scrounge around to find them for you, and that's why it took so long. One of the ingredients that I usually put on the works is crickets.
Oh, the new global food.
Yeah, crickets. Crickets on the pizza. It adds a lot of good protein, makes it kind of crunchy and stuff.
I heard that. Yeah, I've never had crickets.
Yeah. So, anyways, at this time of year, it's supposed to be spring out, and the crickets supposed to be starting to jump around. But with all this global warming and stuff, there's still snow around, and there's no crickets. So I had to go down to and find it on the black market for you.
Well, see, folks. You know, if you're looking for a guy that really cares about the pizza, right? Really cares about the customer, phone Vinnie's Pizza, man. He won't let you down. He won't let you down. I know. I saw my cats love crickets, and they're a little perturbed here because, like I said, this time of year they ought to be having their first crickets, and they like them. But unless there's a snowshoe cricket, we ain't got no crickets because we got snow. The robins are ticked off because they ain't pulling any worms. But when you said you were looking for, we wanted the works, I was afraid you were looking for Prime Minister toes or something to put on the pizza. You know.
Well, we used to have that on there, but we were only able to supply about 10 pizzas with that.
Yeah.
And our stock ran right out. I don't understand. We have to get more prime ministers. That's what we need.
Well, yeah. Maybe we could have a lawyer deluxe. I don't know.
Hey, that's a good idea. Lawyers, though. There's a lot of those out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I'll be a lawyer because it'd be walking funny. You got no toes, right?
You were talking about the hockey, eh?
Yeah.
With the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
They came in last place this year, which is quite an accomplishment. It's very difficult to be that bad. Eh?
It takes a lot of work.
It really does. And the funny thing is, this is the thing, Ron. I used to be quite a hockey fan there, but I kind of start. I check out some highlights and stuff, and here and there, but it kind of makes me want to gag now. But this is the situation this year. The National Hockey League. There's 32 teams, and of those 32 teams, 7 teams are Canadian, and all 7 Canadian teams missed the playoffs for the first time since the expansion in 1967. All 7 teams missed the playoffs.
All teams.
Not only that, Ron. Not only that, but they occupy 7 of the last 9 positions in the league. So they were all right at the bottom, all 7 Canadian teams. How is that possible, Ron?
Well, you got to work at it.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
I like see. My attitude is 32. Is that how many teams there are now? 32 teams.
32, Ron.
Yeah, there is not enough talent to run 32 top teams, right? And I was just
well,
thinking,
it waters down. It waters down to some extent, for sure, Ron. Yeah.
the stress level in the Toronto Maple Leafs headquarters though must have been awfully high. I know they're saying they're very optimistic now. They've hit their goal. They like you said, it's not easy to become last place.
No,
I would think it would be just as hard to be last place as it is to be first place, right?
No,
because those two numbers, everything in the middle doesn't count, right?
That's right.
So, any of 32 teams could be at the top and any of 32 teams could be at the bottom. But only one can be at the bottom and only one can be at the top. So I would think the stress level is pretty high on both ends there.
Oh, it's very stressful having to play hockey. It doesn't matter if you give the puck away or if you score in your own net, you still get paid.
Yeah, that's the whole.
It's very stressful. It's very stressful.
Yeah. So, no, I was thinking that seeing as Toronto's next year is Toronto's 50th chance not to win the cup, which I can't see them winning, even though they're optimistic. That's what I said. Maybe we're in a changing world. Maybe it's time for the first transgendered professional hockey team, and that will put Toronto on the map again, right, as a hockey town.
Yeah, well, you were saying that Montreal was your favorite team?
Well, I haven't watched hockey
because
in years.
Because the fans, they won't show up if they don't win, you said.
Well, that's the way.
Actually, Ron, that's actually not true.
Oh, okay. It's changed.
That's not true. They show up anyways over there.
Okay. So
and in fact, I went to a game in Montreal in 1996.
Uh-huh.
And it was a game between U.S. and Canada for the Canada Cup. It was the third game of the 3-game series, best of 2 or best of 3 series. Anyways, before the game outside the Bell Center there, there was a sign that a bunch of fans were carrying around, and this is what the sign said. It said, "Don Cherry for Prime Minister."
Really?
Yep, that's what they said. Which I thought was probably better than whoever was in at the time, anyways.
Well, yeah.
That was a better option, but Don Cherry works for the CBC, right?
Yeah.
And he likes to push the troops.
Yeah,
he's big on the troops, Ron.
Yeah, he's a big troop pusher.
They even flashed the guys that get killed and stuff. They flashed the pictures up between in the intermission when Don Cherry's on there.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I haven't watched hockey in years and years and years and years. I just got sick of it. It just got stupid as far as I was concerned. But
the other thing too, Ron, is that if you look at all the teams, all the players and all the teams are from all different other places than where they're playing.
Right.
And in fact, most of the players on most of the teams that do win the Stanley Cup are Canadian. They just happen to be playing in the U.S. city.
Right. Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
Well, it is. Like it's it's your team, right? But your team doesn't come from exactly. That irritates the hell out of me. Right?
Yeah.
If you're the team, you ought to be a team from there.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least from kind of the area, at least.
Well, yeah. When you have a team that's made up of Swedes and Russians and Canadians. This whole thing, the whole expansion thing about any of these things is all about internationalization, right? To give an international flavor and call it your hometown team.
Yeah.
And, that's bullshit as far as I'm concerned. Right?
You know that the word where the word sport came from?
No.
Well, what does the word support sound like? Support. That's where the word came from. You take the word support, you take out the UP, and you got sport. And that's why they started sports. It supports the agenda.
Well, that's exactly what it's there for.
That's right. That's
right?
why they call it that, Ron.
It's no different than the Colosseum for the slaves, right? You know? And it supports the agenda then, and it supports the agenda now. And you know, why do you think these professional players get paid these ridiculous sums of money? Because it is something that attracts the average worker too, right? Because they ain't never going to make that kind of money. And you know, I hear people talking, oh, did you hear the contract he signed? Isn't that great? Why is it great? Because it's all supporting the agenda, as you said. And you...
Absolutely, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, the people go and they spend their hard-earned money to watch these high-priced players, but it's always about the fictional world, right? And if these hockey players were making the same amount of money, see, back in the old days, right? The hockey when the National Hockey League got going, most of these guys had to work off season.
Yes, they did, Ron. They didn't get paid much back in the early days.
No, they just liked to play hockey, right?
Yep.
It wasn't about the money. There was no ulterior motive for the hockey game. It was just to get the guys out to have some fun, and then the people would come out and watch them, just like you would at your local rink. It wasn't until the money boys got a hold of it that it changed. And now the guys are getting paid these ridiculous sums of money to come in last place. And the people go and pay their hard-earned dollars to go watch these basically international hockey teams playing against each other in your local arena, and people don't get it. I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe we can put a new ingredient in your pizzas or something to you know, an anti-fluoride olive or something that would sharpen these people up. You know, I don't know what to do with them.
Well, Ron, you know, you can only do so much with certain people. You know, that seems to be the way it's going here.
Yeah, I know, but it gets frustrating. It really, truly does, man. Like,
well,
one day I'm feeling, you know, pretty good about where we're going, and another day, you know, I'm going, man, what's it going to take? You know, what is it going to take? And it's difficult. I saw a thing go by last night that they're tracing, you know, these chemtrail things. They're tracing lithium now coming out of these planes.
Oh, apparently there's all kinds of conjecture on all kinds of things, Ron, and you know. That's
well, I know the
is,
Japanese.
You know, we don't have the laboratories necessary to analyze these situations, so.
No. Well, no, we don't have time anyways because we have to discuss the optimistic return of the Toronto Maple Leafs next season.
Yeah. Actually, another thing about the hockey there, Ron, and all the sports, like you were saying, they support the agenda. Well, if you go on to the website for the NHL, they've got they just had NHL Green Week there recently. And they're pushing and the hockey games too. Whenever there's any kind of bombings or any kind of incidents such as this that have been pushed by the media as something that terrorists have done, well, they bring out the victims and stuff and get to drop the puck at the hockey games. You know. You're talking about getting a transgender team in Toronto there, too. I think that's a good idea. I like the idea of Bruce Jenner coming to drop the puck.
Yeah.
I think nice pink dresses would make good uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, well, I might as well now. I mean, it's so ludicrous. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, this is the kind of stuff Like, what's going on right now here? And I was never a huge fan of Saturday Night Live. I always liked SCTV better. I thought their comedy was better. But you know, these old shows where they used to read the news, sarcastic news, if you want, on like Saturday Night Live and that. It was sarcasm, and it was a kind of extended way out there that people couldn't believe. But now, what would have been looked at as a satirical thing is in the mainstream media now as reality. You know, like Bruce Jenner wants transgender to be normal. Well, I'm glad for you, Bruce. But it ain't normal. Period. You know?
Yeah.
The only way to move it forward is to get a big hockey team. If you're going to make it normal, then let's go. The Toronto Transgenders.
Well, Ron, as much as you're joking about that, you know, it's not within the realm of possibility that they might actually do something like that. You know, like they say, things are getting so weird.
I know, that's what's really freaking me out, right? Like it's the possibilities are all there now. To make the most ludicrous suggestion a reality. And that's when I was even pretty young, you know, they would bring stuff in and you'd say, you know, if you're a white male, you're pretty much screwed. And that was like 40 years ago. And you know, see when they're talking about like this thing, I mean, how ludicrous that Bruce Springsteen would cancel the concert because what? What I was reading in that document was that 0.003 of the population or something is transgendered, and so that I don't think would even account for maybe one person at his concert, and he cancels his concert. It makes no sense.
Ron,
no sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me, Ron. All of the big name acts are. Not only on board with the whole situation, but hello, Ron, you there still?
Yeah.
Oh, they're not only on board with the situation, but you know, they play different roles in the agenda. And if you look at a guy like Bruce Springsteen, well, a large part of what, you know, why he's involved in the whole situation has to do with the Steen part.
With the what?
The Steen part of his name. Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yes. I thought of that last night.
You know, anybody that has any kind of understanding of the situation will know exactly what I'm talking about, Ron.
Yeah, I hear you. That's what I was thinking last night. And, you know, I never paid any attention to Bruce Springsteen either, right?
Well, at least Bruce Springsteen's born in the USA and he's dancing in the dark. You see, he's got that song, Dancing in the Dark.
Okay.
You heard that one?
No.
Well, anyways, that was one of his big hits he had. It was called Dancing in the Dark, and you know, they put in their lyrics, they put these little hints, and they actually throw things in their face. And dancing in the dark is what most people are doing, aren't they, Ron?
They are most definitely dancing in the dark.
Yes,
but you know, I you know, everything, you know, like it's all art. You know, when I look at art and the Artful Dodger, right, and legal,
well, I thought
science,
you meant art.
It's all about the arts, and the arts are all based on fiction. That's the basis of the arts. So the arts is what's basically controlling our lives, which means we're in that fictional world, and we got, I guess, dancing in the dark is what we're doing. And but. You know, I was just, when you were talking there, and I actually visualized the pizza you made. And I'm talking, now there is a fine looking pizza.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So, if you ain't getting a Vinnie pizza, you ain't getting a good pizza.
Yeah, well, another thing I put on the pizza too, Ron, is people need fiber and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I grate up cardboard boxes onto the pizza. That's part of the crust. It's made out of cardboard, and then I recycle and stuff too, right?
Yeah. So
it helps with.
You're saving the planet. You're getting good flavor and lots of fiber.
Lots of fiber. Problem is, people eat my pizza. They end up crapping out those little gift boxes, But when they open up the gift box, well, guess what's inside? Crickets.
The crickets. Little crappy boxes full of crickets.
I know, it's hard to believe, Ron, but, it just proves you can fit a square thing to a round hole.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
And
that's what they're trying.
And you see, we got this guy who can make a phenomenal pizza, has phenomenal insight, okay, and ought to be our prime minister. Vinnie for prime minister. I like it.
Hey, I like it, Ron.
And he's not going to give you anything he can't give you, unlike these other people that tell you they're going to give you stuff that's to drive you in debt. When Vinnie tells you he's going to give you a cricket, he means he's going to give you a cricket, right? There'll not be a chicken in every pot. It's going to be a cricket in every gift box.
Yeah, and Ron, I wouldn't even move to Parliament Hill. I wouldn't even want to live in that big house because it's way too big. It's way too big. I would build myself a nice little 120 square foot home with huge high ceilings, and it would seem much bigger than it actually is. It would seem that way.
It would seem enormous.
So I would like to be prime minister and show the people how they really live.
Exactly.
Set the example, right, Ron?
He would be North America's most sustainable prime minister ever.
Yeah, and then I could have. I could build a garage. I could build a little garage beside it for my moped.
And then you could run your moped just down the street to the light rail transit, right? So it's a perfect world, right?
All right.
Things
are looking up, Ron. Don't be so.
No, I'm glad you called because I was getting a little bummed out here today. I was really tired. I kind of we were up at Paul's yesterday trying to get some floors finished. I kind of pulled my back a little and just tired out so I didn't mean to sound bummed out today, but it's just some of this stuff we knew about years and years and years ago, and to see it on the front page of the newspapers now gets a little irritating. So are you going to do like Colonel Sanders, Vinnie, and start franchising these things out, or what?
Well, absolutely, Ron. I was thinking, last time I called, we were talking about the assisted suicide and stuff, and I could open Vinnie's vaporization emporium.
That's what we're going to do.
Put a little pizza joint on the side, right? People can and actually have a little food court there, so people could have their last meal, right? They could go, I could pick any kind of food I want. I got some Chinese over here, and some Cuban food over here, and some cannibal food over here, and whatever people want for their last meal, and then add all that in there and franchise that out.
So they just come to Vinnie's, get the last meal, get vaporized, and leave with a smile and a full tummy.
Yes.
Thanks for calling, Vinnie. You made my day, buddy.
Hey, no problem, Ron.
Anyways,
keep your chin up. Keep your chin up.
We're out of time. We're out of here. I want to thank TCY. Vinnie, put a smile on my face. And we shall return on
they shoot, they kill, they massacre, they burn the kids. No one makes fun. Trees, laugh to your face, fight and die. 'Cause God forgives.
Bye.